basketball fans, it's me, DC, here for Fantasy Basketball Analyzer to help you get ready for week 4 of the fantasy season, breaking down the NBA schedule, what it looks like, you know, everything we do, strength schedule, back-to-back quality games. It helps you get the edge even before thinking about which players had a big game and you want to jump on someone who had a big game for pickups. Honestly, I think sometimes this helps you more because you got to get the players in your lineup. And next week is interesting. But we're going to start by looking at pace and defensive efficiency. All right, I scoot over on the screen here. We bring these stats up here. The teams haven't really changed, which is good. We're 4 weeks in. It's starting to settle. I mentioned last week that the defense was a little high, meaning not as good, right? You want that defensive efficiency number lower. That means you're holding them to less points. It's down to 112 now. It was 113 last week. So I think we're on the pace for kind of normalizing what we would expect. That should keep coming down. Probably about 4 more points. Probably settle around 108 as the season goes on. But San Antonio, best one to attack. They got fast pace and not a great defense. That makes sense. Detroit, not great defense. Indiana. Memphis, same thing. Makes sense. Triple J is not there. I think they'll figure it out. But for right now, this is how they are playing. That makes sense. Brooklyn, not a surprise. So all these teams up top relying on a poor defense because defense, that number's so much higher than the pace. That's kind of pulling them more that way. And like application, I think the pace maybe actually influences fantasy more just because you get more opportunities. But this is what we're looking at, and they're no different from last week. You know, maybe the order shuffled, but these are the teams that we want to attack, especially if you're a DFS player. These are teams that are going to give up more than you expect or more than other teams. It's exactly what we expect. That's why we're talking about it. Down at the bottom, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Oklahoma. The only one that really stands out here is Oklahoma because I specifically used them as an example last week and said they're about middle of the pack, but they seem to play better defense than you would expect for seemingly like disjointed pieces that they're still like as an organization, you know, potentially trying to tank this year. But the team is not, players don't tank, organizations do. They're still playing well. They play hard for their coach. They play good defense. And while their defense isn't in the red, the pace is helping pull them down. Still makes them an undesirable matchup. So they moved from the middle all the way down here. Otherwise, you know, they're the really good defenses. You expect Toronto to be on this list. Phoenix being on this list is not a shock. Let's take this and go ahead and look at the week 4 schedule. So I mentioned this before. Week 4 is interesting. Most teams have 4 games. Some have 3. Tuesday, no games at all. It's election day here in the United States. So there are no games, which means Monday, every single team plays. So some of the teams have a back-to-back that came from Sunday to Monday. If you pick someone up on waivers hoping to use it, cool. But unless you have an injury, it's probably not happening because you could choose from anyone on your lineup. They will all have a game as long as they're healthy. So we're not really even going to consider Monday when looking at these things unless you're playing DFS, which will be interesting and really hard because there's a lot of things to choose from. But there are some good matchups in there. Indiana versus New Orleans is kind of interesting. Memphis plays Boston. Like that could be a fun game, but you know, Boston's good defense and a bit slower pace maybe drags that down. You can go get in here and try and look at these. Most of our edge is going to come from what we do later in the week because Monday with 15, Tuesday off, Wednesday with 14, they're just heavy loaded. So it's really what happens later that we're concerned about. Let's make note that we've got a few teams with only 2 games next week. That's Chicago, that's the Lakers, and Minnesota. Oh, one more, and Philly. Which is a shame. Philly's got a pretty good schedule for this week, hence rocking the Philly gear and Ninja Turtle gear. And exciting, San Antonio's got 5 games next week. So later in this week, even though their last game ends on Friday, you might want to look ahead and see if there's someone you can scoop up to try and get the 5 games for next week. Focusing back on this week, let's go look at the back-to-backs. So like I said, some of the teams Monday have a back-to-back, but we're not really considering it because everyone's playing and you're not getting them in there. Some teams have this Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back, but Wednesday is still loaded. So for our planning, I'm really not super interested in what happens at the start of the week. I do think it's interesting though. So Thursday with 4, Friday and Saturday with 8 each, Sunday with 7. So any of these teams we're seeing here that have back-to-back, you know, Boston gets a back-to-back just like Detroit or Toronto here, that Friday, Saturday back-to-back where there's 8 games. It's just about half of the league playing. You could probably get someone in there and get a 2-for-1 move. Or you could look at the Saturday, Sunday, which is a little more interesting. We've got Brooklyn, Utah, Washington. If you're trying to do some pickups, 2-for-1 moves, thinking about the end of the week, you might even want to jump on this earlier in the week. If you want to pick up someone on Sunday night, just thinking ahead, hey, what's going on? I can make one move and get 2 extra games out of someone because they've got the Friday, Saturday, and then, I don't know, I grab Golden State because they've got a Sunday and a back-to-back going into Monday for next week. You can make 2 moves there and get 4 games out of it, helping you out a little this week and next week. And because you're not going to work anyone in, I don't think, from waivers for Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, just start planning ahead now for what you want, what's available. It's fine if that's not what the transaction trend is doing, unless you're seeing someone burst because, I don't know, say Melton is somehow still on your waiver wire with Harden out and you want to pick him up, screw the moves and games and streaming and all. That's fine. Like, you think you're going to get a few weeks out of someone, do that. This schedule doesn't matter. But if you're just picking up someone that was hot for like a game or whatever, I encourage you, look ahead at the end of the week. I think it's going to help you win. This back-to-back games really kind of rolled into quality games and getting our edge, so I should probably change the graphic. So here's what we're looking at, right? The darker kind of gold, bright yellow, those are the games we really want to get after. The days with 4 games or 7 games, because it's less than half the league's playing. 8 games is commonly what we think of as quality games. So this whole back half of the week is viable. Philly has the best schedule, in my opinion. They've got a 4-game week. Like I said, Monday, everyone's playing, so we're not worried about it. But you get Atlanta, Utah. You like all of those matchups. I mean, Utah's playing better than we expected, but you're not afraid of them. You weren't afraid of them for defense last year when they had Rudy. Rudy was the only thing making him a top 10 defense if Rudy's gone. So Utah's fun to watch, a surprise success story. But Atlanta, Utah, you like those. They all fall on good days. You get one pickup that gets you 3 games in that 4-day stretch. That's a great move. I'm definitely looking to pick up some 76ers. Like that, Washington gets Dallas, Utah, Memphis. Utah, Memphis, you like the matchups. Dallas, you like a little less, but more importantly, you're getting 3 games in 4 days on these quality opponents. Sorry, on these quality days when low volume days. Those are where I'm really looking to go. Anyone else who's on here, like I've skipped some, say Houston, Indiana, Clippers. If you're looking at this graphic, they play Saturday. That's a low volume day. Dave, why didn't you tag those? Well, that's the only game they have in that stretch. I only highlighted people who had at least 2 games in the stretch. So that if you were looking at, say, Denver, you could get Friday against Boston and Sunday against Chicago. You could take a look at that. If that's the pickup you wanted to make, these are the teams we're looking at. And it's kind of most teams, but you just want to plan ahead. No one has a Thursday, Friday back-to-back for you to pick up and do those 2 and then a Saturday, Sunday. So you kind of got to pick and choose. The best you're going to get is about 3 and 4 days with a single move. Or, you know, you can try and manufacture one. You pick up from someone in New Orleans. They play Portland on Thursday. And then jump to New York, Oklahoma, something like that, and create a 3 games in 4 days. Out of anyone on this list is doable, but use an extra waiver move. So for those of you that are limited, which is really what we're talking about, if you can only make, say, 4 moves a week or whatever it is, 45, 50 in a season, this is where you can get the advantage and still have stuff left for later. That's going to do it for today. I will be back with waivers this weekend. If you have any questions about waivers or anything else, trades you're considering stuff, hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. I want you to go out, win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts. And I'll be back soon with another video for you.